Hi, welcome to Yoke's YouTube channel. I'm Liz Mathew, the regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Thanks for tuning in. If you are someone working towards your PR Canadian dream, well, this is a right channel that you have reached out and leave us a comment in the comment box. So we'll be happy to hear from you. So today we will be looking at a topic that's been greatly discussed among international students and foreign workers in regards to dummy work permit extension. Well, you may have heard a lot of people saying, I'll just apply for a work permit extension before my postgraduate work permit expires, or my friend did it and got another 6 months to work. But is this really a safe immigration strategy? And can it affect your PR pathway? This is all what we will be discussing in this video. So what is this dummy work permit extension? It is not an official immigration term. This is something that you got to know about. It is a term commonly used to describe situations where someone submits a work permit application, even though they may not be genuinely qualifying for that work permit category. A common example is when a postgraduate work permit holder whose work permit is about to expire, they may still be waiting for an express entry invitation or trying to complete an additional Canadian work experience or to gain more time. And they submit another work permit application knowing that the application itself is unlikely to be approved. And the goal is often to remain in Canada and continue working while the application is being processed. So that is a whole brief idea of what dummy work permit extension is all about. So why do people basically do this dummy work permit? The answer is very simple, and many individuals are trying to buy more time in most situations, and they may be waiting for their express entry draw to happen. Probably their CRS score is right at the edge, and they are for sure that they will receive an invitation, and trying to increase their CRS score either by gaining some amount of work experience or completing one more year of skilled work experience, or waiting for a provincial nomination, waiting for an employer to support a new work permit. As a result, some people see a work permit application as a temporary solution while they are waiting for all the different reasons I just mentioned, for whatever reason each person is applying for. But this is where you need to be very, very careful about. So, what is maintained status? So, one of the biggest misconceptions that we see online is that people believe they automatically get a new work permit when they submit an application. And this is not what really happens. So, if a person submits a work permit application before their current work permit expires, maintain status provisions may apply. So, depending on the circumstances, this may allow them to remain in Canada and continue working under the same conditions of their previous work permit while a decision is being made. So, however, the maintained status should not be viewed as a loophole or a strategy to create work authorization where there is no genuine basis for a new work permit application. When you do submit your work permit extension just before your postgraduate work permit expiring, well, as you have submitted your extension before the expiry of your previous application, the system automatically generates a work permit authorization letter. You need to be careful that at that point, an officer has not looked at your application. It's a computer generated letter that you have received. So it's very careful to note that. And what is the real risk? The real issue is not the maintained status itself. Ask yourself, do I genuinely qualify for that work permit category I am applying under? That's something that you got to really ask yourself. And was there a legitimate legal basis for this application? Or was the application submitted simply to gain more time? These are important questions that immigration officers can review your entire immigration history just by looking at that this work permit extension, which is a fake work permit extension that you have submitted. And how can this affect your PR application? This is a whole different thing that you need to think about. So let's look at an example. Imagine you have accumulated 2.5 years of Canadian work experience and you need another 6 months to maximize your CRS score. Your postgraduate work permit is expiring, so you submit a work permit application that you know is unlikely to be approved, and you continue working while waiting for a decision. Months later, you receive an express entry invitation and submit your permanent resident application. At that point, IRCC may review your immigration history, including your work permit application and that you previously submitted. If concerns arise about the legitimacy of this application, it could lead to additional scrutiny of your immigration file. And every case is different, but it is important to understand that your immigration history does not exist just in isolation. Officers can see previous application and supporting documents as your UCI number is the same throughout all your Canadian immigration application that you submit. Only your application number gets changed. So as soon as you submit any work permit or PR application, they can see your whole immigration history. That is something that you should always keep in mind. But you might be saying, but my friend did it. This is probably the most common response. And someone on Facebook did it, or someone in WhatsApp group recommended it. The reality is that every immigration case is very different. So just because something appeared to work for another person doesn't mean that it is a safe or recommended strategy for you specifically. So that's something that you got to note. And immigration decisions are made based on the facts and evidence of each individual cases. It is not a common factor that an officer looks at. They do verify it with your history and they look at with you as an individual. And what should you do instead of applying for this dummy work permit extension? If your work permit is expiring, take the time to understand what are your legal options. So, as of now, you probably understood that the dummy work permit extension is not a legal option, as you will not be getting an approved work permit based on this option. So, depending on what circumstances these include, you can go for other types of work permit like the LMIA based work permit option, the LMIA exempt work permit option, the provincial nominee programs, the employer supported pathways, the permanent resident pathways. The best option will depend on your specific situation. So, before submitting any application, make sure you understand whether you genuinely qualify for this category, because this can lead to consequences that can even hurt your PR pathway or it can hurt your future dreams. So this is something that you really need to um, make sure that is it something that will hurt my future. So the purpose of this main video was not to create any kind of fear. It is to encourage people to make informed immigration decisions. And a work permit application should never be treated as a placeholder or some kind of strategy to simply buy time. And before submitting any application, understand the legal basis for that application and potential long term consequences. And if you're unsure about your options, speak to a licensed immigration lawyer or a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. And if you have found this video helpful, please do like and subscribe to our channel, so this will help us to create more type of immigration contents for you that will be helpful to you. Thank you all for watching. See you all in the next video.